Good day, Cochise County, and welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. Today's date is December 15th, 2023, and we're streaming to you from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Today I'm doing something I've not done before. I'm interviewing a father and son. The father, most of you know that work around here, know Jerry from Arizona at work, Jerry Courier. And then this is his son, Robert. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. You want to introduce your son to everybody, Jerry, and let us know a little bit about him, and then we'll start asking him a bunch of questions and see if he passes gas.
Keep him here for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Just one question after. Well, good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us on.
I'm glad we were able to do this because we
I
talked
am
about
too.
it a lot. So
I've been talking before you get, but anyway, thank you. But just real quick, this is our son Robert. Native of Sierra Vista, that sort of stuff.
Born and raised, huh?
It's kind of neat. It is, but like I was saying earlier, born right across the hall from where I work at the old hospital. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
yeah.
but yeah. So this is our son Robert. Home
for the holidays.
Yeah, home for the holidays. Just graduated ASU, stationed.
Oh, I was going to let him say that.
Well, yeah, I know. I can't.
I was going to say,
it.
Robert, what brought you back to Arizona?
Again.
Tell us real quick.
Okay, but yeah, just home for the holidays. Kind of,
right.
His mom and I are super proud of him.
As you should
what
be.
He's accomplished.
Yes.
Kind of went farther than his siblings and his dad career-wise, that sort of stuff. So, kind of amazing background.
Well, Robert, congratulations on graduating from Arizona State University. Even though we are Wildcat country, we still support and love all of our military, and it doesn't matter even if they go to colleges like Arizona State. See, and I said that respectively.
Yeah,
Arizona
I know.
State. I didn't say anything bad.
You didn't lean over to the side and
no. I used to like Arizona State before when I lived in Phoenix. Well, because I lived in Phoenix, but. So, Robert, tell us what your graduation was like. What degree did you get when you were up there?
So I graduated on Monday with a degree in sustainability. So it's a Bachelor of Science with a focus in ecosystem sustainability.
And what would that entail? Like, what kind of job would you look for with that type of degree?
So, the thing that I liked about sustainability a lot was the fact that there's just like a huge broad amount of different things that I could do. So I think right now it's like, do I want to go into forestry and work for the government, or do I want to branch off and do some consulting work for companies and corporations?
Or start your own company.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I still have 2 years left before I retire, so we're weighing all the options on the table.
So share with us, if you would please, what was it that inspired you to join the military? And you joined the Navy, I understand.
Yeah.
And so, with your dad being Army, was that a lot of ribbing and joking going on there? Or?
No, at the time I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I just didn't get the feeling that there was a lot of opportunity here for me coming out of high school, and so I wanted to find something that would take me away from Sierra Vista, and so I joined the Navy because I figured that would be the best way to get out and see the world, and and I have. So that's kind of what led me on that path, and then I've been on it ever since.
So when you enlisted, where did you go? What was your first stop? Because in the Navy, because I'm not Navy, I don't know. Do they call that boot camp in the Navy, or what do they call it?
It's boot camp. So we in a cold January of 2006 flew to Great Lakes, just outside
Chicago.
of Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they marched us around in the snow for a few months, and after 2 months of that, we went then down to Virginia Beach, a little bit better.
You picked a good time to go to Chicago in January. Then
It was
beautiful
fantastic.
weather.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
I mean, we were pretty beneficial. It was nice because when I went to boot camp, that was right when they transitioned the Navy boot camp to be inside of these things called ships, and so it was like one building that had everything, for the most part, everything within that building. So your your chow hall, your berthing, your classrooms. So almost everything was done inside that one building. We only had to walk, march to a few different locations.
Well, speaking of chow hall, what was your favorite condiment?
At that time, I don't know. Whatever wasn't going to get me yelled at.
No? You didn't have a favorite, huh?
I mean,
You weren't on Team Mustard or Team Ketchup or anything like
it's
that?
going to be a mix between mustard and Texas Pete. Those are the two that I go for.
Isn't that a salsa?
The hot sauce, yeah.
Hot sauce?
Yeah, anything to drown out the taste of everything else. So.
Oh, I was just talking to somebody yesterday. Oh, yeah, Dale Hammond. He was telling me about Texas.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great for anything that's been fried too much. Just pour this hot sauce on it. It's totally fine.
Well, I think it's funny how Tabasco, it's a godsend sometimes.
Yeah.
Hot sauce helps so much.
So give us an idea after what boot camp was like. I mean, you went into the Navy not knowing what to expect or anything like that. You shared a little bit about the marching and the weather and stuff like that. What was your toughest challenge in boot camp?
Dealing with everybody else. Yeah, it was wild because I was, I had just turned 18. So I was I was a kid,
Right.
And surrounded by a lot of people that were much older than I, like in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And they were just having a really rough time, and I did not understand what their problem was. So,
Do you feel that growing up as a dependent Army brat, as they like to call them, that you had a little bit of an advantage because you had a little bit of an idea what to expect going into the military versus somebody from like the civilian sector that had no clue?
of course, yeah, I went in with no, it wasn't a mystery what was about to happen to me. So, when we got there and they took all of our belongings and put it in a box and shipped it home. And
right.
when we, finally did get to our berthing, I was like, okay, this is going to be easy. Just do what they say, wear the thing they're telling you to wear, and then go in the direction they're telling you to go, and don't do it too slow. Like that was
Kind of like all Forrest Gump. Whatever you tell me to do, drill sergeant.
Yeah. And I actually really enjoyed boot camp. They gave us 3 meals a day, and
Right.
it was not really hard. I volunteered to clean the laundry room because that was where you could get away from everybody. It was really nice, actually.
Oh. And what was the MOS that you picked when you were in the Navy? Is that what do they refer to it in the Navy? I know it's not MOS, is it?
It's a rating, so we have ratings.
Ratings.
I'm an intelligence specialist. I've been that for the last 18 years.
So that's what you. So where was your intel training at?
So our intel training was in Dam Neck, Virginia, in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
And then I ended up coming back to Fort Huachuca for some time. So they promised that wouldn't happen, and then they sent me right back to Fort Huachuca. So,
Many
which I
times.
thought was, yeah, many times. Like I probably got more training from the schools up on Fort Huachuca than I did from Dam Neck.
But you were here strictly as a student, though. You were never here as permanent duty.
No, just students.
Student.
Yeah.
So where was your first permanent duty assignment?
Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, Cuba, huh?
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you?
It was all wild. Yeah. So I was an interrogator down in Guantanamo Bay, and I'll just leave it at that. I looked like I looked like a baby, and dealing with some of the folks.
What year were you there?
It was 2000 and summer of 2007.
7.
And then I was there for about a year, a little over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jerry, you got anything you want to?
Well, it was weird because we were both deployed at the same time.
Uh-huh.
He was in Cuba, I was in Iraq. And I remember, and this is a true story, Rob could probably, I remember one time, I thought it was, we were running convoys all over Iraq, and there was a period of time, I think I called you at your office. I got on DSN line and called him in Cuba. We talked for a couple minutes.
Right.
But it was funny. I remember it was one time, I was well into my deployment, and I had called home. We had our sat phone. I'd always call from the staging yard. Hey, let Linda know. We had this thing where I'd say, hey, I'm going to call you when I get to the hotel. Try to keep it. It was corny, but didn't want to really say a lot. But I remember one time Rob had called Linda, and it was just kind of weird that Rob always knew where I was at, and I never really understood. We had BFTs, and I didn't realize Rob had a BFT, so he was able to figure out where my convoy was throughout Iraq.
He could track you?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow.
And so it was funny. I hadn't talked to Linda, and so she's worried, and he's like, "Mom, he's fine. Don't worry about it." She's like, "Well, how do you know?" He's like, "Trust me, Mom, he's fine. Don't worry." It's a true story. I mean, but it didn't dawn on us. It's like, how did he know where I was at? Just pop up on the BFT, and you can monitor where our convoys were. So it's just kind of a funny story. I always thought that was, because I asked him one time, and he's like, Dad, your BFT, hello. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense, the Blue Force tracker.
Right, right.
I just thought that was kind of funny, but at the same time, when your son's over here and you're over here, it's just kind of weird both being deployed at the same time.
And we're in the middle of a war at the time as well. We got a lot of stuff going on, and
But it's kind of neat how, kind of looking out for each other, kind of.
Right.
That's what I always thought was kind of cool.
So you would make the arrest and send him to Guantanamo,
No,
and he'd be the one to...
I ran convoys. My job was pretty mundane.
I was going to say, you could bag him and he would tag him or something like that.
If you want to say that, I guess. But I never did anything like that. Just run convoys. Bag and tag.
So how long were you at Guantanamo for?
A little over a year.
About a year?
Yeah, about a year.
And where did you go after that? What was your next station?
I went to Washington D.C. where I was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff working in the J2. So I was on the watch floor for about a year or so underneath the Pentagon, and then I was in the Joint Staff front office working for the J2.
So you got to work in the Pentagon?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was also another just weird experience. I was, I think, a E5, second class petty officer at the time.
Right.
So, lowest ranking guy, just totally able to freely be ignored, which was fantastic.
I don't know. You should tell the story when you got to meet all the generals by accident.
Oh my God! Yeah.
What you did, walk into a meeting?
There's a few of them. Yeah. So I had a lot of run-ins with a lot of senior folks, which was kind of fun, And at the time, it was demystifying because you had always viewed working with all these people that you see on TV or you hear about, and then being able to be around them and spend a lot of time around them was actually something pretty cool.
Did you run into Schwarzkopf?
No, I ran into the chairman at the time a few times. He snuck up on me when I was on the watch floor. I was like, "Hey, can you pull this up on the screen?" It was Admiral Mullen, so I was personal hero at the time. It was awesome to have that kind of experience. I was General Flynn's driver before everything happened, but I was his driver, so I spent a lot of time with General Flynn. Admiral Rogers, who ended up being the director at NSA later, went bowling with him. So just some really it was cool to see them interact at a human level.
So how many total years do you have in right now?
18.
You have 18, and how many years are you looking at going? I mean, you're so close to retirement, you're going to put in the full 20 at least, right?
Oh, yeah. I am actually probably planning on dropping retirement papers in the next few weeks. So I'm going to go out to 20, and then that'll be that.
And what's your current rank right now?
Chief Petty Officer, so E7.
E7? Yeah. So looking back on some of your military experiences and stuff like that, what would you say has been your most favorite assignment? And where?
It's a mix between two. I would say that my most fulfilling assignment was when I was with Naval Special Warfare Support Activity 1, and I got to do some really great deployments with a few of the SEAL teams. It was super fulfilling to be able to see my work actually implement and have an end result, and then see us be able to spin off of that and continue to dev out new targets and to work in that way. So as someone that came up in the counterterrorism years, that was a pinnacle of job fulfillment. But near and dear to my heart is the USS Higgins, DDG 76. I got to be a real sailor on a real destroyer, sail in the seas, and there was just nothing better than having that feeling of being out to sea. We got to launch, Tomahawks at chemical weapons facilities, so we got to do that, and so being able to see that strategic asset used in the way that it was used, it was a special time.
How long was your assignment to that ship for?
Typically it's only 3 years, but ended up being about 4 years because of COVID. Everything,
Right.
all the PCS, got derailed for a while there.
So when you're assigned to a ship, how does it work? Do you go like out to sea for X amount of time and then you come back to land, and then how does that work?
So we're out to sea all the time. That's the thing that I think a lot of people kind of may, not being in the Navy, have a misconception about.
Okay.
So we have our deployments, which can be 8, 9, 12 months long or so, where we're out and we're gone for good until we come home.
Okay.
But then in between that period, we're always constantly underway. We'll get underway on a Friday, work all weekend out to sea off the coast of California, and then we'll come back Monday and work a 5-day work week. So it's a busy life with frequent underways.
Wow. Jerry, did you guys ever cross assignments or
No.
meet up when you were?
By the time I was well into my career, I was on the verge of retiring.
Uh-huh.
And so, no, it was just, he was hot and heavy by, like when I did my last 2 deployments, he was already, doing his thing.
Right.
And then I retired a couple years later, and, I think it was, you're in your first time in Germany by the time I was retiring.
Any family photos of both of you in uniform together?
I think there's one.
Yeah?
Yeah, one when he was getting ready to go to Cuba.
If you find that, I would love for you to be able to give that to us so we can make a copy of it and put it on our wall, because we're doing that for our interviews now. That would be really cool.
Yeah, he was prepping for deployment, and I was prepping for deployment at that time, so we'd already both started doing our stuff.
So how did you meet your wife? Tell us how that went about.
I met her on MySpace when I was deployed down to Guantanamo Bay.
Okay,
So
where was she at the time?
She was in Taylor, Arizona. So we found each other. I think we were talking about music in some chat room, and then we started talking, kept talking, got her phone number, started actually like making and paying for those phone calls, and then I had some health issues, and when I got medevaced, that really just kind of spun it into full blown relationship,
Okay. What happened? Do you want to share with us, or?
So I had spontaneous pneumothorax in my left lung twice. So
what happened? How did that?
So they literally they were like, oh yeah, you're tall, skinny, white male. It's pretty common. So
Really?
yeah. So, and they're like, and at the time I smoked. So they're like, that only is going to exacerbate and make it more likely. So my lung, just one day, I was standing outside the NEX. My lung I felt like I got punched in the chest.
Oh my.
And I was going to go to sleep, and my friends were like, no, you need to go to the ER. And I'm like, no, you're crazy. Like, I'm fine. It's gas or something. And they took me to the ER, and they're like, no, your lung collapsed.
Wow.
And I was,
And how long were you in at that time?
I mean, I'd only been in a little over a year and a half, maybe, when that happened the first time. And then it happened. So I went to the hospital, was hospitalized for a little bit, and then it happened a second time. So they had to medevac me, do some corrective surgery, and then that's when me and my wife really got pretty involved.
So what was the first time that you actually met her in person? What was that like? How was that set up?
So I was here on convalescence leave after my surgery, and I just got better and good enough to drive all the way up to northern Arizona, and was like, I'm just gonna go meet her. And
did you surprise her?
No, we lined it up, and it ended up working out. So I'm pretty sure she was nervous at the time. Maybe might not have showed up, but she.
It was 50-50.
Yeah, it was 50-50 for me.
Flip a coin.
So I think that she took a risk, and thank God, because now 4 kids later. And 15 years. I think
15 years?
15 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And, of course, didn't hurt Jerry making him a grandpa either, right?
Oh, no.
No. We're super proud of Haley. We really are. She's an amazing young lady. Typical young lady, but she's just amazing. She's our oldest granddaughter.
Uh-huh.
I think it's cool being able to see her, watch her grow up, and she's just. I joke about it, but when we would go visit, being she played soccer for years, she's kind of a beast on the field. Oh man,
Yeah.
She's not really that big.
Yeah,
I mean,
5'2".
yeah, but she's just from athletic to academically, she's just an amazing young lady.
Yeah.
And to see, well, not only see, what was it the other day? You're the first to graduate college. It's because isn't there like a program or something? The first in your family to graduate.
First generation.
Yeah, first generation graduate. And she's like, well, what about me? So father and daughter kind of competing here.
Yeah.
But she's very competitive, and she's just, wow, just be able to sit down and have a conversation with her. It's impressive. It really is.
Well, it's got to be hard being on active duty and having a young family at home that you're away from. But when you look back on it and you see how your grandkids, your children, thrive through it all, and your spouses helped you through that. I mean, it's amazing what our military wives or our military spouses do to be able to step up and help our service members.
And what's interesting, I had a friend of mine. We have 5 kids, and it's kind of annoying at this point where they're all yours. It's like, yeah, why wouldn't they be?
Right.
Linda raised 5 kids. I was always gone doing this. And I think sometimes, and Linda and I talk about this, is that we forget what the kids go through. We were fortunate in some ways because we homesteaded on bases for sometimes, like we were at Fort Stewart for total 8 years. I did the 1 year break, went to overseas, but we forget what they go through, and it's not easy on the kids. Right. And so if you work in a unit that is a high tempo unit, you're either in the field or deployed. And it was funny during the 90s. It was pretty easy. Go to NTC or go to the field for a month or so at a time. But after 9/11, everything changed. And being in the wartime army, put it that way, it's like, oh my God, the height, it's just insane, the tempo. And when you have that, your spouse at home holding everything together, literally, right. It's just, I have the utmost respect for military spouses because I don't think there's enough, what could I say, recognition given to military spouses. For you guys, you deployed more than I did in my career. You spent 20 years in a wartime Navy.
Right.
And, Rob would say, hey, I'm going to be here for X amount of time. Gail's holding the fort down. And I think, and she stayed, instead of going home, she stayed. And Linda did the same thing. And for me, it's like, I have a lot of respect for that because it's not easy. And then when you redeploy home, you're the outsider,
because you haven't been around.
Yeah,
so
you've been gone.
Who's this stranger here that's
who's this guy?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting, and Linda and I were, Rob and I talk about it sometimes. Is I didn't realize, from my perspective, the stress that was put on the family. I just go do my job, come home, blah blah blah. But that's just my opinion, and I know some people would probably disagree with that. But it's hard, when you get to see my middle son was saying not that long ago, when I deployed in 2004, I believe it was. He was old enough to realize, oh man, Dad's going to war. And
right.
Rob stepped in, and being the oldest, he was always there to support. He was always there for Linda, doing, stepping up to the plate and kind of keeping his brothers and sister in line, But, it was interesting, with Stephen, to see him say, yeah, I didn't, that's when I realized that what Dad does, he goes to war. And, and it's like, wow, it kind of hits you hard a little bit because you don't think about it, and watching Rom raise his family, him and
Right.
Gail, some of the things that they say their kids will say. It's like, huh, okay, all right.
Would you say that the military, maybe this is a better question to ask Robert, but would you say that the military has provided more resources and more support for the soldiers' spouses when they are deployed and stuff like that? Did your wife get a lot of? And where was she at when you were like out to sea?
So I, to be honest, I think it's a hit and miss situation. So
Okay.
like when we were with Naval Special Warfare, she received a ton of support, lots of support.
Okay.
But that support didn't always equate to the same level when we were with like USS Higgins. So it was just kind of a hit and miss with how the ombudsman's program was run, or how the base, or however they organized the support to be provided to spouses of deployed service members. And so it was, sometimes where it was like high levels of support and everything was okay and good.
Right.
And then sometimes it was really, really poor support. And that caused a whole lot of friction and additional problems and stuff that I don't think that the military, even after, at the time it was like 15 years into a wartime period, I don't think that they're really equipped, the Navy as a service anyway at that time, to really provide the like mental health services that families may need,
Right.
or things of that nature, or the services that they did provide or have, they just didn't have the ability to provide that at scale that was required. So people were probably going without. I know that from our family's point of view that there were some cases where there was some frustrations.
So switching gears a little bit, going from family and the family support, did you ever meet any one person in the military, a battle buddy or something like that you guys just really clicked and have kept together and kept in communication with each other after all these years?
Three
people.
There are 3 people.
You want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, so it's Michael Scott, Keith, and Dorsal. Those 3 are the glue that holds everything together, even after years and years of being apart.
Yeah. How do you keep in touch with them? Like through Facebook or
we have
phone calls
we
or?
have a group chat on Facebook.
Do
and
ya?
Some other group chats that we've like bounced around between over the years.
And do you guys ever like have little reunions or little get-togethers every now and then?
We try to make it work. Like our jobs all take us all over the
Right,
place. So
and
whenever we're like
families and,
in a location where it's like, hey, bro, I'm 3 hours from you, but I didn't get a rental car. Can you come and see me? And then they'll jump in the car and come see me, or vice versa. So it's yeah.
Life does have a bad habit of getting in the way of some of those things. when
Unfortunately,
it
yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Funding, defense funding has
Yeah.
thrown a wrench in that sometimes. So.
That's interesting. Jerry, you keep in touch with some of your old friends, don't you, from the military, or no?
Yes and no. I was on Facebook one time. It's been a while back. I've kind of walked away a little bit from social media,
Right.
but it was funny. There's a page I used to belong to. My first unit was I was in the 24th 3rd Battalion, 7th Infantry, Cotton Balers, and I was part of the group. And I made a comment when I deployed, and this guy come on, hey, do you remember me? I was your PL, and I'm like, oh man, oh okay. So kind of talk a little bit here or there. And just kind of followed a couple people, but nothing, like you said, it's been, oh man, forever ago since the Gulf War.
Right.
We all do our own thing now, kind of getting a lot older, but yeah, I think it's kind of difficult kind of staying in touch sometimes because you're doing your own thing, raising your family or whatever. But yeah, it is kind of neat every now and then to run into somebody or a battle buddy from years ago or stuff like that. It's just it's hilarious because you look, yeah, a little chubby now, gray hair.
Yeah. So I know it's kind of hard to predict the future and stuff like that, but Robert, looking forward, if you could pick your dream job, where you could live, your location, what would that be?
Oh, National Park Service, hands down. And,
Where at? Any particular location?
I mean, obviously you'd want to go for the good ones like Yosemite or Yellowstone. I give that's probably a little harder to get walking into the service, but I mean, if everything panned out perfectly and I got to go and just hang out in national parks all day and help people explore what that offers and why it's important to conserve things like that, then I mean that would be a dream.
What would some of that entail? Like if you were had that job, are you saying like interacting with the public and showing them like where trails and stuff are, or conservation, yeah. or what are we talking about?
Just like trying to interact with people and showing them what our park would have to offer, and then just warning them about some of the hazards that could exist, what to do, what to not do, and then at the end of the day, reinforcing that education of why it's so important and so critical for us to protect not just the habitat itself, but then the wildlife that comes along with it, and just to, because there's a lot of like fear about reintroduction of predators and things like that, and so educating the public on how to interact and coexist with those types of animals, and the benefit that they bring to an ecosystem, I think would be just so much fun to help people understand.
Just recently, which I think is the coolest thing in the world because of his degree plan, you're able to go to Botswana to a game preserve.
Yeah, so I went over the summer as part of a study abroad experience through ASU in association with King's College out of London and University of New South Wales in Australia. ASU runs this program, so we were able to go to the Okavango Delta, which is an alluvial fan that has, if you've watched any nature documentary in Africa, I guarantee that you've seen most of the footage coming out of the Okavango Delta. So I got to go and spend about 10 days sleeping with a bunch of the park rangers, the game rangers, in one of the concessions in Botswana. African wild dogs making kills in our camp in the middle of the night, elephants tramping through feet away from us while we sleep. It was just absolutely awesome. It was a great time.
Isn't it true that they have like I think it was like a leopard or lion or something over there that could actually go into camps and would actually steal people pretty much, especially like children or whatever. If they wandered away too far from camp, they would. So you have to be really careful when you're in an environment like that.
So you do. So where we were staying was a concession. So the way that the Delta splits it up is that the government splits up and leases concessions, and then they provide it to these companies that manage the concession on behalf of the government. And a part of that is tourism based. So you do have to be really careful because there are predators and big herbivores that are very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But in our particular concession on the way in, about a kilometer out, we came across two big males that were getting ready to overtake a pride. So they were pretty aggressive, and the people warned us, but they're like, as long as you're aware, you shouldn't have any problems. And then when we got to our camp, they're like, hey, there's a baby leopard that lives in the camp, because the camp was in this small wooded area.
Right. It lived in the camp?
It lived up in the trees, and they're like, you just ignore it. The mama leopard will come through to check on the baby every once in a while. And then, sure enough, we put up trail cameras and caught the little baby leopard not 100 feet from where we were sleeping. So it was. Wow. But we never saw it. Had no idea it was there. We could walk around the next morning when you got your coffee, and we could like go and look at all the footprints for all the animals that came through. Saw the lions. Saw all sorts of stuff.
That's kind of creepy.
Talk about fathers and their sons. That's my dad. He pops in every now and then and watches the interviews. So he said, great interview. So he's enjoying your story here.
Oh, thank you so much.
But yeah, it's fascinating because like when I watch a lot of the wildlife stuff, I'm huge into like the gorillas and the chimpanzees and watching how they all interact and everything with each other. So my next question is to you is not what happened so much, but how did you become so interested in the parks and all that stuff as a kid growing up? I mean, was there a certain thing that, like, did you guys used to go to a lot as a family, or how did that interest develop that you have this huge love and interest for the parks.
So, I mean, I have always been a nerd. So I absolutely love
Sciencey
science.
guy.
Everything about science, I absolutely love
Okay.
it. And I think over the years I've like switched into like whether I'm into astrology or physics. But really with sustainability, when I found that, I had no idea. Like I originally was like, oh, I want to figure out how to do like high yield gardens or address food deserts in inner city.
I would say you really got kicking doing that during COVID because you started little aquaponics in your backyard.
Yeah, some stuff So I really got into it, and then I was like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do after the military. And I was like, I wonder if there are like degrees for this. And then I found sustainability. And then once I started taking sustainability, that's when I really found out that, well, there's a lot to sustainability, and ecosystems and wildlife management and conservation is a focus that I could go down. And then that's when I really got into it. And then my time in Botswana was like seal the deal, it changed my life.
Wow.
That opportunity, it changed my life in so many ways. So.
Do you have a little garden at home that you like to work in, or anything around like that, or?
Yeah, I have a garden on my patio that tries to.
You live on fourth floor, third floor?
Third floor.
In an apartment.
Third floor of apartment.
Cool. So I try to maximize my patio as much as I can. But we're in Germany, so the growing season's pretty short. But I do have grow tents on the inside of my house that might annoy my wife a little bit. And then every single southerly facing window is just full of lemon tree. Like I have a lemon tree in the window. I have all sorts of different plants and house plants and. We just recently built a green wall, so it's this watering thing that we hang just to try to bring some green vegetation into the space.
And are your children there in Germany with you guys as well?
3 of them are.
3 of them?
Yeah. So my oldest actually left to go to college herself.
Okay.
This past fall, so she's a freshman at NAU in Flagstaff.
Okay.
And then the rest of us. Actually, she should be in Chicago in a few minutes. She's headed home to Germany, so.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll see her in a few days.
But are the rest of them are here right now for the holidays, or they're in Germany?
Yeah,
just here.
Everyone's in Germany. We couldn't really afford like flying everyone
right.
just to do the graduation up in Phoenix.
But what I think is kind of interesting in overall is that with Rob, being able to go to ASU and I think it's a shame because what I do for a living is that you don't see you see active duty soldiers, sailors, whatever, take advantage of whatever educational benefits that branch offers.
Right.
However, what I'm super impressed is what the Navy has done with Rob. Basically, full ride through ASU. Just you pay for books.
Yeah.
That's it. And so, what's really and so that's cool. So Rob's taking advantage of that, reinventing himself. Because
I was gonna say that's your thing.
My passion,
reinventing. Helping veterans to get jobs after they. Yeah.
And so, but what's cool, and I didn't know this, and I would highly encourage if you're Haley, because she's going to NAU. There's programs that what you're saying once a year where DOD will fly her home to Germany to be with her family once a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she's a dependent of an active duty service member and stuff like that. So there's a lot of programs available that I feel the active duty soldiers, and families should be taking advantage of, because when that person starts transitioning, you hear amazing stories, where you hear horror stories of that transition. And something Linda and I are super proud of with Rob. Not only is he taking advantage of these resources, but he's also prepping, and I hate the battlefield, if you will, how to transition successfully, learning what apps, getting that resume out there, taking advantage of, which I didn't like, you call it handshake, getting all these hits. So he knows when he retires be close to finishing his master's program, he'll walk into a job.
Right.
And the hard part, the challenge, I think, is trying to decide who you're going to go work for. And that's what I think is so cool about all this, is that watching Rob do this, it's like, wow, if he could do it, others should be able to do it.
Right.
And be able to complete his degree program, like we were saying before the show, on track, not take 15 years, but do it on track.
And the fact that he got it done while he was still active duty,
Exactly.
instead of happening to go into the civilian sector as well. So yeah.
And working in units that are high tempo and be able to do this all at the same time, I think is just like, wow. And you'll be able to finish your master's before you retire, or
I start my master's next month, and then I'll be able to hopefully finish it by December.
And that's just I couldn't do it. I'm not academically disciplined enough. I would be that 15-year person probably.
I would say, one thing about like my whole academic journey that I do think that is important to share with people, especially if you're on active duty or reserve, is that I was terrified of funding. Like ASU is more expensive than a traditional like school that aligns with the military, like
especially if you're out of state tuition and all that 100%. Kind of stuff. Yeah.
But one thing that I will say about ASU that may exist with other universities is that through the Pat Tillman Center, which is the Veteran Center up at ASU,
yes,
they offer something called the Active Duty Reservist Scholarship for every class that you use military tuition assistance for, which is capped out at like $250 per credit hour. The Pat Tillman Center will pay the rest. So if I take English 101 and the Navy's only going to cover $750 and there's $1,000 left over for that class, the Pat Tillman Center says, you use TA for this class, we're going to cover whatever's left.
Wow,
that's amazing.
I was really scared when I signed up at ASU that I was going to like have to take out some federal loans or that I was not really going to be able to find enough scholarships out there to like help me get through. I jumped off a cliff, and then the Pat Tillman Center caught me and was like, no, don't worry about it. To the point to where when I like planned everything out, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to come up with $15,000 of scholarship money because my TA is going to run out. And it's actually been opposite. I still have TA left over because Pat Tillman Center, because of Arizona State, just providing all sorts of access to scholarships. And I'm sure that is also the case for the University of Arizona and for others. So.
And you've also learned how you've gotten pretty proficient on hunting down grants, scholarships, stuff like that, and being able to write them and apply for them.
Yes.
So if you didn't know how to do it, by the time you started, you learned, right?
Oh yeah. And we all I'm sure that everyone has to write evals and fit reps and things like that. That is a scholarship application. That's what I've learned is that, those bullet write-ups that we have to do every year anyway, and that we keep a record of, it's scholarship application. You just have to figure out which ones fit in which. So your community service, sexual assault prevention response, victim advocate, I volunteer in that program, and that counts as volunteer service in the community. So you just have to be smart about where your evaluations have written and then try to plug that in. You have to rewrite it a little bit to make it, civilian, but I think it's good practice for resume writing. I also think it's good practice, and it's great when you get money coming in.
What was challenging, I think, too, is that this is where it gets interesting. So you work a specific career field your whole adult life, and you're like, it's time for me to reinvent myself. I want to go towards this instead. I don't want nothing to do. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So it's like you're sitting there, I was helping Rob do his resume, and I'm like, oh man, this is a challenge, but this is gonna be a real pain in the butt. And so I'm asking Rob questions, and so I said, well, we kind of have to get to a point where the Navy stuff kind of disappears off your resume, and we focus on sustainability stuff. So I'm like, man, how do we do this? And so I said, so what are some of the things you do? Well, I volunteer with the garden and the Botswana stuff. I said, ooh, that's where we should focus your resume on.
Right.
And take some of the stuff from the Navy because it is important, leadership, stuff like that. But that was what I thought was kind of fun and challenging was, we started Rob started reinventing himself on his resume, and it worked. And companies are reaching out to him. Nonprofits are interacting with him, and I think that to me that's just absolutely amazing.
But I think that you had something to do with that though as well, because you are passionate about that. And Kevin, both of you work in Arizona at work. You help veterans here at the Warrior Healing Center that come in
Right.
and want to do resumes and reinvent themselves, and you help them with that.
I think what's neat though, and Rob's always been this way since he was little. Very analytical guy. Very. Linda and I joke about when he was little. I don't mean to throw you under the bus, but we lived in this little itty bitty trailer, and Rob had his box of toys, and he couldn't fit it out. He couldn't pull the box out of his room one day, and so I get up, and Linda's like, no, Rob will figure this out.
Problem solving.
Yeah, he just turned the box around to pull it out. So I think that was his first how he problem solved.
Right.
And like I say, I'll brag about my son all day long, but Rob has that discipline, that drive to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to do, and he did it, and he does it. Has always been a very driven individual, and and I joke, I don't know where he doesn't get that from me, but to watch him grow up and watch his career path, and I think that is the epitome of kind of what you and I have talked about, Kevin and I have talked about, is that our career paths in the military it's like a trail, a winding trail.
Right.
You start off in a line platoon, you go to the office, you go from the office back online, but with watching Rob, it's like major commands, major units, I guess.
Yeah.
That has reinforced that, I feel, and that drive to say, hey, look, I don't want to do this when I retire, but I want to go work I want to work outside for doing stuff that he's always been interested in doing, from
Right.
his first book on bugs to
I love bugs. They're great.
That's what I think is amazing.
Good morning, Laird. Thanks for joining us this morning. I think it's really fascinating, because the fact that we have so many people that want to, get a job, get work. They don't know how to go about it. And I think that this idea of, like what you're saying, you come in, you help them with their resumes, you give them ideas. Because a lot of times when you're leaving the military, of course, I'm talking back when we were in, hopefully it's gotten a little bit better today, because they have like the TAP program and for people retiring and stuff like that.
But I think the challenging part is, are you paying attention when you're sitting in those classes? Or are you that individual that's like, man, I'm proud of what I do, but I really don't want to do this. So my first thing is, so what do you want to do? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? How can you make money out of that? How do you support your family, or just support you? And I feel is that get up and ask questions.
Right.
How do I pay for my college? I can't afford this. So there's, it's a broken record. There's so many different ways. If you're that veteran that gets that huge disability rating, well, now your spouse, your kids can go, that's a way to pay for it. Or if you're on active duty, like with Rob, perfect example, the Navy's paid for everything.
Right.
And there's organizations that will assist you.
And you can be a 100% disabled through the VA and still work. There are rules and guidelines that you have to follow, but it doesn't mean that you can't.
Exactly. Again,
using your words, reinvent yourself, go back and get another job and help supplement your income, or volunteer.
And I would exactly. And I would say, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but the rules have changed. There's more opportunities. There's resources that are there for veterans, active duty, Guard, Reserve. Take advantage of them. They're there for a reason. because of what I do, sometimes I love hearing, well, maybe someone more deserving should use it. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves it.
Right.
It's there for a reason. You pay it back by being successful. You pay it back by being happy. So take advantage of these resources. And then you'll hear, well, you guys are just entitled. Yeah, we are by law. They do this for a reason, because we're willing to step up to the plate and sacrifice for something we believe in. So this is the least I feel that they could do. So
Right.
if you want to go to college, the money's there. Use it, because if you don't use it, it may just sit there.
Yeah.
And if you like buying those cool toys, this will help you buy those cool toys.
Yeah.
So, and that's just my 2 cents. So,
But I would add on to that to say that there's not just like state or federal funding that exists for you.
yeah, exactly.
There are programs that exist at other, like if your spouse wants to go to college, there are
Yep.
programs where ASU will pay if you were honorably discharged for your spouse to go to college full time.
And I just found that out the other day. Rob was telling
No
me, and I was
questions
like,
asked.
what?
ASU
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
here you go. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that those
Wow.
programs exist in
Look
other
into it.
places. But I mean, there's just a wealth. Don't be afraid to start asking those questions and to start digging in, to reach out to veteran centers at universities and all over the place. Like there's so much money. There should be no excuse.
It's disgusting how much.
And then if
there's
you
out
get
there.
a 100% rating from the VA, you can use your like, because my daughter went to
Chapter
college
35,
through Chapter 35 program,
and they're also eligible.
and my
for,
wife could have done it.
Yeah,
Could do
they're
it
also
as well.
eligible for work study positions
Yeah.
through VA, or like Rob was saying, if you're the spouse of that veteran, and say hypothetically you have that high rating, not only do you get that, but there's other assistance to where you don't have to work.
Yeah.
Because they want you to concentrate, they want you to graduate, so they're going to assist you in whatever ways they can assist, from maybe a housing situation to financially, where you could focus on getting your degree and graduating. And that's what I think. So many things have changed, and for the better, because how many times did you meet at college, you'd maybe work in a couple jobs and go to school at the same time? That's kind of unfair in my opinion. But if we're able to assist you where you don't have to work 2 jobs and you can graduate, awesome. That is amazing. Arizona at Work has programs for veterans and non-veterans. If you qualify,
Right.
they'll pay for your training. But if you just go to your local university, like Rob was saying, ASU, see what's available. It might amaze you what's out there.
Well, in closing up here, I want to also extend to Rob that when you get ready to retire, get a copy of your full medical record, hard copy if you can. And when you're ready to file for your VA benefits, I'm a chapter service officer with the DAV. Come down and see us, and we'll help you file your claim. You can actually start filing your claim while you're still on active duty, right before you get ready to retire.
6 months out?
I think so.
Something like that? Yeah, I know you can.
But you can start putting your paperwork in for that when you get ready to retire. So you probably knew that, but if you didn't, I'm letting you know that you can do that as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, in the military, especially retirees, have so many things throughout their career. Maybe they forgot, oh yeah, I hit my head when I was in a sub, or I did that, you totally forget, and you got migraines, or, I mean, you get all these different things, and then you sit down and you start talking about your claims. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I've had veterans come in that have wanted to file a claim for like 1 or 2 items, and by the time they walk out the door, there's like 10 or 11 items
Yeah, it's
on the form.
insane.
So,
I will for sure make a visit.
Yeah, because
yeah, do that.
it's interesting because, I beat myself up and I use myself as an example, and I love it. My opinion, my experience with the VA system hasn't been bad. There's a few things that are kind of annoying, but that's okay. That's fine. But you may have to wait a little bit for an appointment or whatever. But I do have to say, which I think is just so amazing, is that recently, like a idiot, I let my prescriptions expire. So I call the VA, go through this, And I was working with this one lady that she's like, okay, this is what we got to do, blah, blah, blah. Then they transfer me, and this person's like, nope, we're not going to be able to help you. And I'm like, oh, man. So a couple days later, I get a 7-day refill. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing. This lady went above and beyond to make sure everything was good to go. And then I get everything else a few days later. But, you know, I think the VA they do amazing things. And I think if you are
Just
proactive,
takes them a while.
It does. It does.
You have to be patient.
You do. But when it comes to disability, I'm a huge advocate for it because I truly feel the person you were when you enlisted and who we are today, we're just different physically, mentally, due to the nature of being in the military. And I don't mean that in a bad way. The military takes a toll on you. So if you're an infantryman to work in high stress environments, or say you deploy or say you never deploy, your experiences, you know, it's just I think you should get into VA health, take advantage of it. It's there for a reason. If you're able to do a disability rating, please do.
Yep.
Because if you want your kids to go to college, as like you said, if you get up to hit that threshold, the VA is going to pay for them to go to school. And, you know, and then there's also the possibility of maybe, well, you know, I don't really want to have to go back to work. Maybe I want to focus on college. You could do that. Or maybe
Right.
you just want to work a neat part-time job to afford to spend more time with your family. You see a lot of veterans who are reversing roles now. The spouse will go to work, the veteran stays home, plays whatever. And that's what I think is kind of neat, because I've worked with a lot of veterans that have done that. They've just reversed roles. They want to stay home, maybe focus on school and help spend more time with their kids or whatever, you know.
And if you hit that 100% rating, man, you're golden. Then all of a sudden you get all these bells and whistles and perks. That open up like all these different grants and stuff like that that you can apply for automotive and home adaptive and all this stuff. It's,
and you're right, because, there's say, you see it on the news, veterans who amputees, redesign the house for them, or, whatever the situation is. It is amazing what's available through the VA system.
Yep.
That'll help that veteran and their family. It's like, look into it. Go to your local VA. Hey, I heard about this. Is this true or not? Or I heard that my kids or my spouse could go to school, or whatever the situation is.
Well, and then they have like grants where you can apply for small adaptive things to your house, like if you need a ramp put outside your house, they have grants that you can apply to have that done. Then they have the bigger grants you can apply for, where you can have your house readapt like a bathroom, it's just crazy, all the different stuff that you can do.
It's there for a reason.
Yep.
Look into it.
And by applying for it, people don't feel guilty about it. It's a benefit that you earned. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that don't want to do that, or because they don't feel like they earned it, but they did.
Yeah, and I understand from where they're coming from. I do. I get it. I totally get it. However, it's there for a reason. It's there to assist you. It's there to make a better quality of life for you, or it's amazing. Look into it. Ask. You're not going to get chased with pitchforks and torches if you ask the question. They're not.
No.
They may say, yeah, it's there. You want to apply for it? Or, hey, look, maybe go over here instead. So, and like I said, it's the VA is not this evil entity from maybe the 50s or something.
Right.
I don't know, but they've changed. I feel, my opinion.
I love doing these interviews, and you guys have really given us a lot of good information, and I thank you both for your service to our country, and I thank you both for coming in and sitting down and talking with me and sharing a little bit of what it's like being father and son in the military. Army beat Navy, so that's always a good.
It's about time.
We still have the overall record. so
Whatever. It doesn't count this year.
We'll give you this year.
Give us this year. So,
Whatever.
Robert, again, thank you so much for coming in and sitting
thank you.
down. And Jerry, as usual, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
And next time you're passing through town, just let me know, and we'll do an update story too, and see what Robert's doing. Maybe 6 months to a year from now, and you never know.
You'd
Got a
be
lot of-
making that big money.
yeah, big bucks.
If only.
Big bucks, no whammies. A few announcements here I'd like to share with everybody real quick. Want to remind everybody of some of the upcoming events that we have here at the Warrior Healing Center. On Monday, December 18th, we have the Holiday Glow Walk. It's going to be at Tompkins Park. Team RWB is the one that's hosting that. And that starts at 1,700 hours and goes to 1,800 hours. On Tuesday, December 19th, starting at 900 hours, going to 1,400 hours, is the monthly blood drive. It's for the American Red Cross. It's going to be taking place at the American Legion Post 52. You do need to have an appointment. Well, if you need an appointment, go to www.redcrossblood.org. And also, it says here from 1,300 hours to 1,800 hours is the blood drive, American Legion Post 24 in Tombstone. Again, for an appointment for either of those locations, just go to www.redcrossblood.org and you can make your appointment for it. Next up, we have Wednesday, December 20th, starting at 1,730 hours, going to 1,900 hours. We have the Christmas Lights 5K, another Team RWB event. They will be meeting at the Circle K at South Buffalo Soldier Trail. And on Thursday, December 21st, we have our Bagels and Brew is back here at the Warrior Healing Center. It starts at 900 hours, goes to 1,100 hours. It's where we do the coffee and breakfast, and it's put on by the Cook's Club, and they put out an amazing spread and everything. So if you can join us next Thursday for Bagels and Brew, I hope everybody will be able to make that. We also have the Flutes for Vets. It's going to be an open house, and they're going to be doing this all day on Thursday, 21 December, here at the Warrior Healing Center. Excuse me. At 1,700 hours, going to 1,830 hours on Thursday, 21 December, we have the Flutes for Vets graduation and Christmas party, which will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center. And then we have 1,830 to 2,100 hours. We have the Warrior Headspace and Timing support group meeting right here at the Warrior Healing Center as well. And the last event that I want to announce is for Gunny's Barbecue and Event Center. It's a veteran-owned business. He's doing a Christmas Eve brunch buffet starting Sunday, December 24th at 11 a.m. and it goes to 1,500 hours. It's $20 for adult, $15 for children under 12, and they're going to have pork, chicken, brisket, fried catfish. Some of the sides are arroz con grandales. I don't know if I pronounced it right. Tostones, garden and macaroni salads, tater tots, biscuits, gravy. It is dine-in only, and that's at 5043 South Highway 92 in Sierra Vista, Arizona. That's Gunny's Barbecue. So that's it. That's the show for today. I'll be back here again next Friday. Jerry, I'm so glad that we were able to do this because we've been talking about this for a year, that you'd love to have your son, and it worked out. Yeah. So it was.
I know you wanted to have Linda, but that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you said she's camera shy. She's not going to do it.
Won't do it. She won't do it.
No?
I think she'd be awesome on it, my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not going to happen.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas to you.
You as well, Mike.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll see you next Friday. Take care now. Have a great day and a great weekend.